Hi, my name is Amplifi. I make music, mobs isn't good. So you clicked in this video because you're probably asking, how do you sound like Heylog? So in today's video, I'll be breaking down the vocal production of a song, The War, which I remade, and if you haven't listened, link in description, up in the card, and you can also listen, which I would recommend. You can tell me how good or bad I did. And today I'm going to give you a preset which you can use, €1, link in description, or you can just watch the video, reverse engineer what I did. I prefer you didn't, but that's why the video is here. So without further ado, let's just jump right in. So I used FL Studio. I love FL Studio. So I'm just going to play a little portion of the verse to begin with, because that's where our vocals start. And as you can see, all these white channels are vocal channels. What I'm going to do is play the verse.
Can you keep a secret? Don't tell anyone. These butterflies around me resting on my thumb. I think they're a sign that I made it from them. Dodging my own hatred, but I felt it dark. We try, but it's so hard. I'm just another kid reaching for your eyes. Like I said, can we try again? I swear to you I'll make it up, but this is probably that.
So I'm going to play without any processing at all. And I'm going to mute the reverb and delay because they're just sends I created, and it's very situational. In your song you might not want sends, and Heylog doesn't always use reverb and delay, so in the song he did. So
we try, but it's so hard.
Sounds terrible, but luckily we have my preset, which sounds amazing.
We try, but it's so hard.
Beautiful. So where do we get this beautiful sound? Well, first of all, we need to just start from the start. Autotune, everyone uses it. And as you can see, retune speed's very high. Bit of flex, bit of humanize, which just makes it sound a bit more normal. And lessens the effect of it. So, without.
We try, but it's so.
With.
We try, but it's so.
Not a huge difference in this part because it's actually a decent enough take. But for some other sections in the song, it is quite necessary. So next we're going to move on to EQ. So it's just subtractive for the most part, taking out anything below 100-ish hertz. As I said in previous videos, what you want to do is take the lowest fundamental. So what we'll do is...
We try, but it's so... We try...
Now, I do sing lower in other parts, so this isn't actually properly representative. But...
We try, but it's so...
We'll say that was where our lowest fundamental is. And where I want to go is just before it, and then cut that out, because that's going to be noise. It's going to be just like bits and pieces. Taking out these resonant peaks as well. What you'll want to do is probably tweak these. So what you can do is just take these potentiometers and just adjust them. So you can crank the gain up first and then sweep.
We try, but it's so...
And you just pick out the parts that sound like really bad and then bring the gain down. Next, flanger. So very low key, you're not going to notice a big difference.
We try, but it's so. We try, but it's so.
So it's used quite a bit more in the chorus, the drop kind of section. Next, Fruity Limiter. I'm using this as a compressor because it gives you a visual indication of what's happening. Fruity Compressor, like, it's a good compressor, but it just doesn't look very nice. So Fruity Limiter is much better. And limiters are compressors. So there's that. So without.
We try, but it's so.
With.
We try, but it's so.
As you can see, these purple bits, that's what's being reduced in gain or compressed. And yeah, not doing a whole lot. Threshold's only at like minus 10 dB. We have another one later on that's cranked. It's doing the heavy lifting. This is just taking the particularly high peaks and bringing them down, kind of normalizing the audio. Next we have Soundgodizer. This is a multi-band compressor. It's preset in Maximus, in case you didn't know. We can take Maximus here and go to the Soundgodizer presets, and they're A. So this is what it's doing, compressing each band. And you can see where the bands are and the gain of them. That's all Soundgodizer is, and it just gives you this one amount knob, which lets you control things, kind of like a macro. So just a preset, just a touch of it. And without.
We try, but it's so hard.
And with.
We try, but it's so hard.
So again here, it just makes it a bit more crispy, a bit more produced sounding. Next we have Maximus, which is our de-esser. I would recommend you use anything else as a de-esser. I just switched everything to stock plugins so I can give you a preset that you can use. I used Pro DS by FabFilter, brilliant de-esser, but you could use anything else.
Try but it's so
especially in so without and then with. It brings down the highs of the S's, but it's not very intelligent. It is just a multi-band compressor, and what it's doing is compressing whatever occurs within that band at a certain threshold, which includes some of the normal noise, and after we've done some EQ and compression, it will affect that. So I would use something a bit more intelligent. Next, Fruity Limiter again, but this one is cranked, as you can see, at like minus 23 dB. So listen without.
We try but it's so hard.
And with.
We try but it's so hard.
As you can see, absolutely cranked. The purple is your gain reduction there, and then we're adding post gain because of how much compression we're doing. Next we have Fresh Air. Free plugin, I recommend you use it. So here's without.
We try but it's so hard.
And here's with.
We try but it's so hard.
So as you can hear, most of our heavy lifting is done by the last compressor and then Fresh Air. That's adding that really high detail sound. So next we're going to move on to the drop, which is where it starts getting fun and interesting. So here we go.
Hold my hand for the fight. Wars ahead, fall in line. Hold the stance. Hear the monsters like to dance. Viruses first pesticides. I'm hoping I'll sleep through the night. Hold my hand as we go high. Do not look down, just close your eyes.
So very different to the verse, and this is the climax, and it's a very interesting part, and this is what made me want to research it and dig in. So the production is super cool, but we're just doing vocals today. So we're going to start with the lowish part. I named these myself, and the first thing I did was I wrote out some MIDI. After separating the stems, I tried listening, and this is what I came up with. So, and then this one. And there's these as well. So I wrote out the MIDI, and then what I did was I soloed each part so I could record each part as close as I could to the original. And then what I did initially is I mapped. So I'll just play you the original of Lowish without any processing. I have to find it first. This is going to sound bad.
Into light, hold my hand for the fight.
So as you can hear, I tried to follow the MIDI of it. Obviously, I didn't do a very good job. But here it is with the processing.
Into light, hold my hand for the fight. Wars ahead.
I know, so it doesn't sound 1:1 with the consolidated version. That's because I actually used Melodyne to do that, which made it sound a lot more natural and let me correctly adjust the pitch. First things first, we have Fruity Limiter. As you can see on these, I do have a bit of EQ on the channel. So without that compressor.
Into light, hold my hand for the fight. Wars ahead.
So again, catching the big peaks and just bring them down a touch. Next, we have Waves Tune. This is just for the demonstrative purposes because Melodyne is using a huge chunk of my CPU. So what I'll do is turn on Waves Tune, and really cool, what you can do in Waves Tune is give it a MIDI input port, and then if you use MIDI out, you can then write your MIDI, it sends it out, and then Waves Tune receives it, and then you can click target pitch. So what we can actually do is click reference tone, and it's going to play the MIDI in through whatever built-in synth it has.
Into light, hold my hand.
So then if I click target pitch, it's now going to tune to those notes.
Into light, hold my hand for the fight. Wars up.
So this is really good, especially if you don't care about having synthetic sound. It's great for building up these layers because you can actually write out your melodies. So next we have EQ. So very much just subtractive. It's just getting rid of these chunks, these resonant peaks. Next we have Maximus, de-esser, and again, use any other de-esser. I don't like Maximus.
Into light, into light.
So especially for the sounds, and you can see I have my waveforms colored. These blue kind of greeny parts, they're the parts we're trying to get rid of with our de-essers. Next, more EQ. So it's actually doing a lot of the same, just taking all these resonant parts, because again, we have like 4 layers. So each resonant peak is going to be times 4. So we want to make sure really sculpt it
into light.
So again, not a huge difference, but that's fine. In context, it matters. Next, do fresh air. Just a touch, because again, we've all these layers. Then some wave shaper. So I used kilohertz distortion in my version, but we're going free and FL, all stock, baby. So just saturation. You can use anything. It's just adding more harmonics and a bit of interest. So without
into light,
width,
into light, into.
Because you're driving into distortion, there's going to be extra gain added. So that's that layer. Next we have high.
Into light, hold my hand.
So this one's pretty cool. I'm not gonna break it down to such an extent because we've so many layers to go through.
Into light, hold.
So compressor, auto tune, and using the same type of thing. We're MIDI mapping it. Then some EQ, some flanger. The flanger's cranked on this, so without width. Widens it, adds a lot more interest. De-esser, very important on this. A bit more EQ, fresh air. It's all the same as before, but the wave shaper, we're cranking the distortion. So without width. You just want, in this type of sound, you want some distortion on the higher parts. Next we have low.
Into light, hold my hand for the flight, towards ahead.
So the autotune really did some heavy lifting. So here's our example.
Into light, hold my hand.
And the interesting part is the lower part is being panned. Otherwise the same, except for the wave shaper is slightly different, but it's still just a saturator. It's not doing the heavy stuff. Next we have our main layer, which is this.
Into light, hold my hand for the fight.
And you hear it's very breathy, and especially with the compressor, it sounds very synthetic.
Into light.
We have some different processing, so it does sound a little different. So,
Into light, hold my hand.
And I didn't sing it close at all to.
Into light.
It sounds very cool. So we're using Destructor because I actually wanted some slight bit crushing, and then some distortion, and then a lot of high end. So without.
Into light, hold my hand. Into light, hold my.
Sounds great. So if we play all these layers.
Into light, hold my hand for the fight. Wars ahead, file in line, hold the stance. Hear the monsters like to dance. Viruses versus pesticides. I'm hoping I'll sleep through the night. Hold my hand as we go high. Do not look down, just close your eyes.
So next we have the second verse. Processing is the exact same, so I'm not really going to go through it, but I'll play a little section for it.
So if you keep the secret, will you go and tell? Cause if that's the case, I'll keep it to myself. But you can tell me yours, I won't tell anyone. This is between us and no one else. I was talking with her eyes that hurt like hell.
You know, some kind of processing. So then we have next chorus, the exact same processing, so we're not going to go through it. So for the bridge section, there's 2 distinct layers. So one is the high, which is consolidated because I used Melodyne. Because I can't sing that well.
The war is done.
And it's quite high.
Set fire to them all. Silence, peaceful. Finally.
So it's pretty much the same as the verse. So important thing is I Melodyne just to tidy it up. You can see it's cranked a little less than the verse. Processing is pretty much the same. So next is the low layer.
The war is done. Set fire.
It's not actually as good as it should be, but because it's just a layer, it's fine. Without any processing.
The war is done. Set fire to them all.
So nothing too crazy. We got our auto-tune and it's cranked. Look at that. We got like our fresh air is the same as the rest. Bit of flanger. It actually adds a lot despite being so low in volume. So we're just gonna play the bridge with that.
The war is done, set fire to them all.
Doesn't actually sound that great. Like, it sounds a bit empty, but then
the war is done, set fire to them all.
it sounds good.
Silence, peaceful, finally.
And this next section, pretty similar, except we have this distorted part. So that anti-processing.
Escaped, you're so lucky.
As you can tell, I can't sing that well, so we're actually going to play it without the distortion, with all the processing.
Escaped, you're so lucky. You've run from me.
So again, the distortion is being cranked, which is the important part, and it adds so much volume. I kept the breaths in because it actually helped humanize it a little bit more, because with all these added harmonics, it sounds closer to a synth rather than normal stuff. Next we have the verse 1, but it's chopped up a little bit, and you can see these little chops.
Can you keep a secret? Don't tell anyone.
And these clicks I kept in, even though they're like, you're not really supposed to have clicks, but it sounded quite close to the original.
Can you keep a secret? Don't tell anyone. These butterflies around me resting on my top. I think that they're sound that I made it from. Dodging my own nature, but I felt it dark. We try, but it's so hard. I'm just another kid reaching for you. Like I said, can we try again? I swear to you, I'll make it up, but this is probably that.
Then the last section, we just have this vocal. I'm not sure if I recreated it perfectly, but I did is I boosted and clipped it a bunch, because otherwise it was just really shit sounding. So, quite important that it's cranked. So it's going through the distorted pass. In Heylog's version, it actually sounded quite a lot more crushed, and possibly a closer part of the mix. I couldn't recreate it perfectly, but I was pretty happy with it. But all in all, that's the track, you know? So what I recommend you do is obviously download the vocal preset. So here's how you download the vocal preset. First, I'm just using a different browser because I don't want you to see my search history. So, first thing you want to do, you're going to go to the link in the description. I'm just going to bring you to here. So, you want to just browse through. Maybe you want to listen to this, watch on YouTube, like and subscribe, you know how it is. You're obviously going to want to read that, read all this awesome stuff. And you're going to type a fair price. So the minimum you can pay is €1. Seeing as y'all love me so much, we're going to pay 10 million US dollars. Oh, and with VAT included. You can add some other stuff, such as my other presets. So, you know, you're going to add in all your information and, you know, all of that. And, hello world at email.com, you know, and you're gonna click pay. You're gonna get your preset. You're gonna hit download, and then you'll literally just go open mixer track state. You're gonna go verse, open it up. There you go. That's it.